everybody, this is Marjorie. I'm just off the phone with my cousin Dorothy. Now, I've told you before, she's the receptionist at the doctor's surgery. Britain's last hope, so I phones her up. She went, "Doctor Surgery, how can I help you? This is Dorothy speaking." I says, "Oh, cheer yourself up, hen." I says, see if I was phoning with depression, I'd be more depressed talking to you before I even saw a doctor. So she says, "Oh, hello, Marjorie, what can I do for you?" I says, "Right, can I get an appointment to see the doctor?" "What seems to be the problem?" I says, "What business is it of yours?" Now, that bugs me. That bugs me. See, when you phone the doctor's surgery, and these receptionists, they think they're doctors, and can ask you this and can ask you that. And I said, "No, I ken they're only doing their jobs," but I says, "Well, if I'm going in to speak to the doctor about a problem, I didn't want my personal problems put in a database." And Dorothy says to me, "It'll need to get logged on the system eventually anyway, Marjorie." I says, "That's fine, but I'd rather the doctor was logging it rather than telling all my Heaney Manoonies stories to you." So I says, "Right, who's available?" She says, "Dr. Divvy." I says, "Doctor who?" "Dr. Divvy." I says, "Who's Dr. Divvy?" "Dr. Divvy." So she says this about 3 times, and I'm like, Doctor who? Who are you talking about?" Then she starts talking about Daleks and big scarves and the TARDIS. I went, "No, that Doctor Who, you stupid clown." So she says to me, "I'll get you an appointment with Dr. Divvy." I says, "That's fine. Whatever, Dorothy." And I came off the phone and I'm thinking to myself, do you know what? It's much better now, isn't it? Because, well, they give you time. Because they didn't want folk hanging about the waiting room, because of the social distancing with the coronavirus pandemic. So they give you a time, and you go to the surgery, and you get... It's like you're in a delicate, one of them, when you get your ticket, and you wait your turn, or like the Argos. So you get your time, you go along to the doctor's surgery, you sit in your seat, and they didn't let too many folk in. I says, this is much better, because, you know what it's like before the pandemic. Well, the doctor's surgery, the waiting room was absolutely full. I used to sit there for about 3 hours, eventually. It got that slow, and it was that busy. I used to take some... a couple of pieces. I used to take a couple of pieces in the tinfoil just in case I was held up at lunchtime, and because I like to sit down and watch loose women, but, to take some pieces in a wee flash just in case I get held up. Anyway, and then the last time I was in the waiting room, we're talking a year and a half ago, right, before the pandemic, I walks in, here's Fat Boy, 2 doors down, he's sitting there, says, "Oh, what are you in for?" He says, "I'm in to see about my eyes, darling." So he was getting, what was it? He was in to get his eyes seen to because, he was having to go into the hospital, right? Because he was having to get Cadillacs removed for his eyes. So that was that. But, I say, part of the problem with the doctor's surgery is folk go to the doctors for anything. Anything. That's how it's so busy. You've got all these numbskulls going with the slightest wee thing. And parents now, I think parents can be a wee bit overprotective with their wains. Because I've been sitting in the waiting room and I've seen Wayne's sitting. I was like, what's wrong with him? There's nothing wrong with him. And she's saying, "Oh, he's got a little cut on his finger." I went, when I was wee, we fell out trees, we got cut, we broke our bones, we were rolling down hills, we were in bins, we had our teeth knocked out, didn't care. We were as happy as Larry because we were out playing. But now everybody's wrapped in bubble wrap now. And also, the thing is, see if you were out playing, if you were out for the day and you were out playing and you were away, you were running down a hill or letting your wee sister go in a pram and she was belting off a wall, that was fine because you were out all day and nobody worried about you. Your mother and father weren't bothered as long as you were back before it was dark or back for your tea. In my case, I just went back to the house when I was hungry, but that's beside the point. But nowadays, see if you're missing for more than 45 minutes, you're in Scotland today as a missing person. So that was that. So it made me think. It made me think of some of the things that when we were wee, and you'd be taken into the hospital now for some of the things. I was up my loaf the other day and I found my old cot. Right now, my old cot was painted in this kind of pink, I don't know, lead-based paint. Right, I says you wouldn't get away with that now. See if you had that in a cot now, you'd end up in Watchdog, or you'd been the BBC Breakfast News with Naga Nantucket. My funniest doctor story. The doctor was called Doctor Who. Actually, straight up, the man was called Doctor Who. And I was in the hospital. Now, this was years and years ago when my late husband was still alive. And I went in for a hysterectomy. Can I just tell you, there was nothing funny about it. So, in for my hysterectomy, and the doctor's coming round to do, the last call, we chat with you before you leave. And my husband, he was a right joker, was my husband. I'm a very serious person. Now, my husband says to the doctor, now, what do we need to know? What do we need to know? How do we look after Marjorie when she gets out? And he says, oh, well, just watch what you're doing. Just be careful. Just watch what you're doing and you'll be absolutely fine. Get plenty of rest. And my husband, Alexander, says to Doctor Who, Doctor Who, will Marjorie be able to play the piano? And Doctor Who says, oh, yes, she'll be able to play the piano fine. And my husband, Alexander, says, here, this is a mighty fine operation because she couldn't play the piano before she came in. Ha ha!